I'm not off the juice, baby, but I walk in a room and I'm stumbling. Loosen the noose, baby, what a man gotta do to get up in it. Cruise down Melrose at the top, down in the Astons. Tight like Velcro, we can talk about all of your passions and your fashion. Oh, we could fit a drink in this space.
Welcome to my channel. I'm Anthony King. Today I'm going to talk about why men are builders and how through building a plan, a man can build his confidence, his success, his value, and ultimately he can build the life that he wants. There's so many men out there that feel rejected, they feel defeated, and they're on the brink of giving up or they've given up. I'm here to tell you, you can live the life you want if you're willing to do the work that other men won't do. If you're willing to sacrifice what other people won't sacrifice, you can build the life you want. Anything is possible. The world is full of people trying to tell you that you'll fail. And as long as you don't try, then you've failed. So I'm gonna jump on my Chinese e-bike. I'm gonna go for a little drive and I'm gonna dive into this topic of why men are builders and why men can never stop building. So as we dive into this topic of why men are builders, the first thing that I want to say is that this is for average men. And I want to be the first to tell everybody I'm an average man. In fact, my life started out where my potential, even just to be an average man, was extremely unlikely. I didn't have a father growing up. I was raised by a single mother on welfare in low-income housing. By all metrics, my end outcome in life, at best, I would be lucky to ever be even middle class. I've struggled and through my life and my circumstances, I've had to learn a lot of hard lessons along the way. Life isn't easy. For men, life is extremely difficult because we carry a heavy burden that women don't carry. There's a lot of men out there that feel extremely rejected in the dating market. In fact, a lot of dating websites are saying that most women are only pursuing like 5% of men. So there's no doubt that life is an uphill battle for men. But where men get their value is in building. And a lot of men don't know where to start or how to even formulate a plan. And I'll be the first to tell you that nobody gave me a plan. Nobody gave me that kind of guidance. My mom, she was a great mom. She was a woman that spent and devoted all of her time to cooking breakfast every morning before school, taking us to, baseball and football practice. She helping us with our homework. She was like what most people would consider a traditional mom. But as far as getting guidance from men, I never received that in my life. I've had to figure out how to be a man on my own. And more men now grew up being raised by women, and they don't possess the skills that other men have, because without that guidance and that leadership and that discipline that comes from a father, a lot of boys struggle in adulthood. And trying to figure out life on your own means there's going to be a lot of trial and error, and you're going to lose a lot of time. And for men, time is the most important thing, because to build value and to build success, it takes time. Even if you've gotten guidance and good leadership from men, building success is not something that happens overnight. Very few people, you know, become wealthy with no work involved or without sacrifice. So for men, it's so critical that starting today that you can't waste any time. Like, you've got to formulate a plan and dream of the life you want. And the reason that I started this channel was to really try to show people what's possible. I'm fortunate that naturally I'm a dreamer, I'm creative, and so I've always had ideas and I've always tried to figure out how to make them work. And, that has led me to have a lot of life experience. It's allowed me to do a lot of things that other people have not done. Men, over the course of their life, they're going to have to build to establish some type of value, some type of ability to not just take care of themselves, but to be able to provide and support a family. So for me, 11 years ago, I made $17,000 and I had to rebuild my entire life. I started a record company when I was 22 years old. I did music professionally. In high school, I got published writing poetry. Um, so I've always had this creative mind. It was in music that I learned business. I always had an interest in real estate. And in fact, when I started doing music, at 22, I really wanted to do real estate, but there was so many things that I felt like financially I wasn't at a point in my life where I was ready to think about tackling all the things that it would take to start building and acquiring real estate. And I think that, my passion for real estate actually came from growing up in low income housing. And my mom used to always talk about how she grew up in this Medina home and, uh, how having a home is so important. So I think that just stuck with me, that success would come from real estate. And I didn't really know how because I was young. And as I did music and I traveled throughout the United States, I was always looking at real estate prices, started understanding that the cost of living is drastically different, like compared to growing up in like Bellevue, Seattle area, to seeing real estate prices in West Texas and Oklahoma, and realizing that the opportunity was there if I could get to a point that I could earn enough money that I would be able to buy a house and eventually, keep going, keep trying to buy houses. And that's what I've done. But I had many setbacks. I made a lot of mistakes when I was really young. I had to pay $190,000 in child support. I've gone through parent alienation. I've gone through restraining orders to prevent you from seeing your kids so that you had no ability to fight for custody. So ultimately, men, it's through building, formulating a plan. My plan 11 years ago was I was going to start over, rebuild my life. I got a job making $10 an hour. I'm not lying. And I started working 50, 60 hours a week, started going to college for business, and kept working my way up by working 2 full-time jobs for several years. In fact, that's actually what it took for me to qualify to buy my first house. And every time that I had bought a house, I set a new plan on how I was going to buy the next one. I started managing rental properties. by renting bedrooms in the houses instead of renting the entire house. I did this to protect myself from a bad renter who didn't pay rent, because it's not very easy to be able to make 2 or 3 house payments at the same time when people don't pay rent. So by having one house and having each bedroom be essentially its own house, you're kind of protected, because if one person doesn't pay rent, you've got the other people living in the house, they're probably paying the rent. And so this gives you like protection. And that's how I kind of built a safety net to be able to keep building without risking to lose everything. The older you get, the more you can't afford to take losses. It's easy to take risks when you're 20. It's a lot harder to take risks when you're 35 or 40. So, I mean, every year I build a plan for the year. In fact, 2013, I made 17,000. 2014, I made 34,000. And every year I continued to build a plan of what I needed to do this year so I could make more money next year. And it became a game where I continually challenged myself. And like I said, nobody taught me any of this. I've had to figure everything out on my own, and I've had a lot of failures. Thankfully, a lot of my failures were from when I'm 18, 19, 20 years old. And those mistakes cost me a lot of money and ultimately cost me a lot of years. It took me 5.5 years to pay 190,000 in child support. That child support that I owed had a lien on my credit. So I couldn't even buy a house until I paid off this 190,000 in child support. I think most people, things like child support, they're losing so much of their income, they can't even survive. In fact, I saw a study by the state of Washington where the number one reason that people don't pay child support is because they don't make enough money, basically because they're poor. So when you think about all these slogans out here about deadbeat dads and all that, just know the number one reason that people don't pay child support is because of poverty. So we have all these stigmas out here trying to crush most of the time. 83% of children they live with the mom. So 83% of men that have children are paying child support. So when you think about that, unless you're making 60 or 70,000 a year, you probably can't even afford to pay child support. You're paying it, but you can barely live or survive. So building is critical to the success of men. You can date the women that you want to date. You can live the life you want to live. Average men can have the life they want. I've traveled around the world. I've dated international women. I was the poor kid that the teachers thought would fail and would never be anything. I made catastrophic mistakes that cost me 190,000. To put that in perspective, at the time I bought my first house, 190,000 in child support would have paid for 1.5 houses. My first house was like 125,000. At the point I could have 1.5 more houses than I have right now, I could have retired a few years ago. Now I'm almost at the point where my job income has been replaced with rental income. And next year, I should be able to retire, to be able to move overseas and live the life that I want to live. It's possible. Anybody can do it. So leave a comment. Tell me a little bit about your story. Tell me what your income level is right now. Tell me what hardships and where you're at in your life. Like, this is a channel that's built for average and poor men that actually want to live the life they want, date the women they want, have the things they want, even if it's just to provide better for the family you have. So like, subscribe. Until next time, keep building, keep grinding to have the life you want.
Straight to the jeweler from the bank, bad boy. I can get you anything you need if you ask for it. See, I don't wanna be what you could have said. F-R-E-N-D-S, but I'm gonna take that chance, to mama. Spin around, drop to your dance, to mama. Bottle in the booth, get the check, get aroma.